The first reading taken from the Acts of the Apostles tells us the apostles spoke many different languages. But I think the truth is not the apostles spoke many different languages, but they spoke only their own native language, which was Galilean. But it was the Holy Spirit. He translated, I would say, from Galilean to other languages. Because, in Jerusalem at the time, there were about perhaps more than 20 nationalities. So the apostles spoke their own language, but it was the Holy Spirit to make other people, other nationalities understand what the people said, the apostles said in their own language. And this reminds me of the meeting I had in Rome 2 months ago. 2 months ago we had a meeting between the provincials of the order, of the Dominican order. And the provincials speak 3 languages: Spanish, English, and French. So we need 2 translators. For example, when a provincial speaks in Spanish, so the 2 translators will translate from Spanish to French and from Spanish to English, and so forth. So I think that was the work of the Holy Spirit in the time of the apostles. So my dear brothers and sisters, the Church calls the Holy Spirit by many names or titles. He is the Paraclete or the Comforter. He is the Advocate, the Defender. He is the Sanctifier, the Teacher of Truth. He is the Giver of life, the Giver of grace. He is the Innovator. In short, the Holy Spirit is the principle of life of the whole Church and of all of us. So much so that without the Holy Spirit, the Church cannot live, cannot exist. The same way, if a person doesn't have a soul, then the person becomes a dead body, not a person. Or a branch of a tree, once cut off from the tree, it will soon wither and die. So that is the work of the Holy Spirit in the Church. First, the Holy Spirit is who strengthens the faith of the apostles and send them out to preach the gospel to all nations and to stand witness to the resurrection of Christ without fear, to the point that they felt happy to be tortured, hated, and even killed by other people. Saint Andrew, for example, when he saw the cross reserved for him, he cried out, "Oh, holy cross, I have been longing for you for many, many years. So with the strength of the Holy Spirit, the apostles became very strong, very brave, and they fear nothing, even death. It is also the Holy Spirit who gives extraordinary courage to the martyrs in all the world, so that they are willing, the martyrs are willing to die for the sake of God. In the history of the saints, we were told that Saint Felicita was pregnant when she was captured and put in prison. So sometimes her labor pain was so acute that she cried aloud. But later she was able to undergo all the torture and even death without saying a word, because she had the Holy Spirit with her. It is also the Holy Spirit who gives enthusiasm and zeal to the missionaries, so that they go out to different countries, facing many problems and adversities, leaving their homelands and their loved ones, and even to the point of sacrificing their lives. And indeed, many of the missionaries never came back to their homeland because they died, they were killed in the missions. It is also the Holy Spirit who gives the loyalty and the constancy to those who live in the consecrated life. The priest, the religious, the sisters, the nuns who live in the consecrated life with so many temptations, and yet they can be loyal to their vows of obedience, of chastity, and of poverty until death, thanks to the help of the Holy Spirit. And finally, it is the Holy Spirit who gives us courage to avoid sins, to fight temptation, to face adversities in our life, and to keep the commandments of God, and to be faithful throughout our life. So this is the work of the Holy Spirit in the church and in our life. There is a story, it goes like this. One day, a world notorious atheist came to Lourdes not to pray for a miracle, but to ridicule those believers who go there to pray to the Blessed Virgin Mary. He saw, that atheist saw a little girl of about 12 years old, paralyzed and lying on the wheelchair, pushed by a nurse, coming out from the grotto of Lourdes. So he approached and asked the little girl, "Poor little girl, I know you came here to ask the Blessed Virgin Mary to cure you. But you see, the Blessed Virgin Mary did not cure you. You are still paralyzed. So why do you still believe and love the Blessed Virgin Mary? And the little girl said, no, I did not come here to pray to be cured, but to pray for those who do not believe in God. And hearing this, the atheist was stupefied. He couldn't say anything. Anyway, a week later, he came back to the hospital to see the girl. But the hospital nurse told him that the little girl had passed away a few days ago. But before she died, he told me to tell you that she accepted the death to pray for your conversion. So the atheist went away very sad and without saying a word. A few months later, he asked to be baptized and became a good Catholic. So, my dear brothers and sisters, it is extremely difficult to convert a hardcore atheist to the Catholic faith. It may be impossible unless there is the working of a miracle, the working of the Holy Spirit. And in the case of this man, it was through the prayer and the death of the little girl that the Holy Spirit acted His power on the man and make him change his mind and become a Catholic. So may the Holy Spirit continue to enlighten our hearts and strengthen our faith that we may live in peace and knowing that the Holy Spirit is always with us, defending us and protecting us from all anxieties and adversities of life.